All righty, I think we're up and running with that awesome music. I love our music, you know that?
I do too.
Wait, nope, I don't have you. Hold on. There you are. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Wait a minute, I got to use my tagline. Welcome back to Men Need to Be Heard. No, you're on Boy Meets Squirrel. Did I ever tell you the time I was on the radio and used Boy Meets Squirrel?
No.
This was November, like late November, like right around Thanksgiving. So we go to commercial, we come back, and I go, hey, everybody, welcome back to Boy Meets Squirrel. And my partner, Bill, just looked at me and goes, what the fuck is that? You know, he's mouthing it because he can't say it on air because he had no idea. So, yeah, I saved myself on that one, though. I thought I had told you about that one.
No, apparently not.
So how's Lindsay?
I am back in Texas. I am not on my dad's crappy Wi-Fi anymore. Although, thank you guys for bearing with me for that last week. Although there was a lag, so I kept trying to think, are they done talking yet? Are they done talking yet?
So it was lagging on your end? Actually,
it was lagging on my end.
Volume and sound-wise, it was fine. Like I wouldn't have known there was a lag. Picture was not great, but that's okay, right? You know, I mean, but it was awesome that you were able to join us from there.
Yeah, I liked it.
Did you have a good visit with Dad?
I did have a good visit with Dad. And then when I came out of talking about that stuff, he goes, how did you get started with all of this? And I was like, do you want the short version, the semi-long version, or do you have an hour?
And did you tell him I'm your second dad?
Yes, I did. And he goes, the older one, I go, no, Curtis. Yes, Dan. Curtis, according to Mr. Squirrely, Curtis is my boyfriend.
Oh.
And I'm like,
does Curtis's wife know this?
Well, I said I prefer the word brother, but
yeah, that would be far more appropriate.
It would be more appropriate. I was like, I have a brother. I don't want him, or I don't like the one that I have. So can I just have Curtis instead? And he goes, that's fair.
And age-wise, it would work.
Yeah, age-wise, it would work.
It wouldn't be good for me to be your brother. That would be really weird.
That would be that would be like some Targaryen Game of Thrones shit.
Yeah, it would.
But I'm back in Texas. We're not currently underwater, although last night we were.
Oh, we were too for a while. Town south of us got flooded out, and so for you guys don't know, but I was at the hospital emergency room all night with my wife due to a minor issue. She's fine. And it poured here. So when the ambulance was taking her and I'm trailing behind, we're throwing up water everywhere. But it sounds like you got more than we did.
So last night wasn't that bad. The night before that, we had softball-sized hail.
Nice.
And
I would like that.
Well, we couldn't get my car all the way in the garage, so we managed to get enough junk cleared out to get the windshield of my car into the garage.
Oh, well, that's important to protect the windshield.
And then Eric took his Mr. Squirrely took his brand new truck and drove it to the gas station under the awning.
Smart.
To keep it from us not be able to drive a vehicle. We weren't necessarily worried about dents and all that stuff because we can cover that insurance. It was the windshield, not being able to drive to work.
Oh, windshields should be covered too, but
but we would be able to drive to work after them, and he kind of sort of needs to make money in order to pay for the hail damage.
Although I have a crack in my windshield in my mom-mobile that's been there for 7 years, so it's just low enough that it's below eye level, and it passes inspection, and I'm like, I ain't gonna worry about it.
But yeah, so I'm back, and we have a lovely show today, which I think technically I came up with, but Curtis made it sound so much cooler.
And I had nothing to do with it.
He bullet pointed me like an APR.
Actually, he went, I have to he's off air, but let's give him a little credit. He's doing a lot of work into prepping for this show. He's actually becoming an actual producer. I mean, I'm like, can't say that. What the heck? He did a masterful job on it, because in the real world of TV, the producer's job, It's actually usually an intern flunky that does it, but the producer hands notes to the on-air talent and tells them to use it. So, Curtis, you're now officially a real producer. Well done, sir. Well done. What is the topic, Lindsay?
Bridging the gap between misandry and misogyny. How do we fix it, and how did we get here? Who is to blame? Dan has a soapbox he wants to stand on.
Yeah, but that's separate from this. You want me to do that now, or do you want to wait?
We'll wait and do a mid break. But I have some thoughts on this particular topic.
Run, go.
Feminism is to blame for quite a bit of it, or at least not even just the modern interpretation of it. The suffragettes weren't exactly the epitome of sweet angels that our history likes to paint them as. They seem to have forgotten a good chunk of some of the stunts they pulled, including but not limited to bombing post offices, and voter
Let's talk about that.
And voter registration booths, because they demanded things, violently demanded things, aggressively demanded things. And then fast forward into modern feminism, and I think it was the very beginning, the first meeting of what is now called the National Organization of Women, where they sat there and talked about how they need to destroy the nuclear family unit in order to free women from their shackles. And that's where that's where misandry really got its foot in the door. Now, of course, the term is old. I think the term misandry comes from the 1880s. I believe it was the first time it was ever in print. And of course, the term misogyny has been around for quite a bit more time. But
actually, due to our producer's wonderful work, misogyny goes back to 1656 when it was first found in the Oxford English Dictionary. I'm taking his entire paragraph and narrowing it down to 4 words, but yeah. Misandry is traced back to 1882 magazine article. So I
was close.
You did damn good. Well done. Golf clap for you.
I did not get to look at Curtis's notes because right before we jumped on air, I was on the phone with the school because tomorrow's the last day of school. So I had to get a call from the nurse reminding me to come pick up my child's medication from school. Anyway.
Husband, child, same thing, right? Don't do it.
Anyway, so while the terms themselves have been around for a long time, they've gone through a couple of cultural revisions, I guess you could say. Dictionary definition of misogyny is a prejudice or hatred towards women for being women. The same is true of misandry. However, functional definition and dictionary definition aren't always the same thing. Right. The functional definition of misogyny has pretty much become holding women accountable, daring to suggest that women are not, in fact, perfect, immaculate creatures that could do no wrong. Every time I hold a woman accountable for anything, even as a woman, I get accused of having internalized my misogyny.
Oh, they love that phrase, don't they?
And not a single one of them knows what the word actually means. Disagreeing with women. Well, you don't agree with me. Well, that's misogynistic. No, honey, he's just smarter than you. And it would be like, they're having a discussion. She says, the sky is green. He goes, the sky is blue. The sky is green. The sky is blue. You're a misogynist. Like that somehow invalidates his argument.
I think I've had that actual conversation at one
time. Versus misandry, which is the exact same energy, just flipped. And if you ask most women or a feminist, they'll tell you misandry doesn't exist.
Yeah, they love to fall for that one, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't exist. It's a made up term, and if it does exist, um,
Oh, I'm hearing Brittany. Uh-oh.
if it does exist, like it is a reaction to misogyny. So like men are misogynistic to women, and then women don't like men, and like it's fair. And I'm like,
Brittany is back and better than ever. Oh, that was good.
I love when they use that term because I was like, okay, first of all, that is a leap of logic that Evel Knievel couldn't have made. And you're going to need to draw me a map, preferably with a compass, to how you came to that idiotic logic, because that makes no sense. Bigotry is never never excused, or reciprocal bigotry is still bigotry. Reciprocal,
They're talking about the balloons.
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
Reciprocal hatred is hatred. Reciprocal racism is still racism. It's not reverse anything. It's just the same side of the same awful coin. And when you give them examples, they're like, well, okay, I'll always ask, give me an example of modern misogyny, because I can think of one. I can think of two, actually. And they always want to tell me that all the things they name as misogyny are not really actual misogyny. It's holding women accountable. It's, daring to, when we say we want to be equal, actually holding us to that standard that we set, instead of being Schrodinger's feminist. And then I said, well, I can think of a couple examples of misandry. And I would even argue that in today's society, misandry is far more insidious than misogyny, because if you see an example of misogyny, usually by an individual, out in the world today, we are trained to destroy it, like attack dogs. Misandry is more insidious because, one, most people don't even acknowledge that it exists. And two, when you have a blatant example of it, excuses are still made left, right, and sideways. Someone asked me for an example of misandry, and I said Hermison versus Sayre. Guys, go look it up if you don't know what that is. It's a Kansas case. It's where the babysitter was abusive to her charge, and then when he turned 18, she sued him for child support and won. I would argue that in addition to being a heinous crime, that is also showing a deep societal systemic disdain towards men, I would argue, versus we don't see the same institutionalized systemic disdain towards women the way they want us to believe that it exists. Like they would have us believe that the glass ceiling, which doesn't exist, by the way, the glass ceiling is because of, latent misogyny in the workforce. I argue that you can't break the glass ceiling if you don't choose to go into the career of your own volition, ladies. If you don't choose to go in the career, you can't complain about there being a lack of women in that field. So like STEM, petroleum engineering is one of the highest paid and almost completely male dominated fields. Like, well, there's no women in it. It's a proof of misogyny. And I'm like, okay, what's your major? Early childhood development. Why? Oh, because I want a fulfilling career. Exactly. You could have picked petroleum engineering, but you didn't.
And made 10 times the money, we might add.
And you didn't. And that's down to choice. So nowadays, I often see feminists especially, but just normal women too, because it's been spoon fed to us. I can see them.
They're on a roll with the comments. We can't repeat most of them. You need to be on YouTube to watch these guys are off the charts, and I love them all, but we can't repeat them. I know, it's like they're one right after the other.
And if you don't choose it, they see a disparity between sexes, between male and female, and they automatically attribute malice to that disparity. Oh, it must be because of misogyny. And I'm like, or Occam's razor, the simplest solution might choose to be the real solution for the problem. Like, I don't know, personal choice, this wonderful magical thing called personal choice. The only way you can force equality between the sexes is to remove personal choice. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be out in the sun hauling roofing tiles up to
Oh,
a
I'm all
commercial
for.
building.
No, I'm all for this. We absolutely, because I just did a video where this one of these lovely young ladies, as I like to put it, on TikTok said that there should be a state where only women are allowed to live, and I am 100% in support. And I said, look, give you California. We'll give you a nice big state. But that means that you got to do it all. So who's going to do the dirty work? Who's going to build the roads? Who's going to dig out the oil and coal to power everything? Oh, wait, there's solar. Who's going to build the solar plants? You know, it's not that they can't do it. You and I would both say that women are perfectly capable of doing those jobs. It's that they choose not to. And that's the difference between what we say and what they say, because they want to say that it's women don't do it because men don't allow them to. Yet everything out there shows it's choice. Women are choosing not to do those jobs.
And that's what baffles me, because I'll sit there and say, well, there's no women in this field. Okay, again, what was your major? And was there a big, bad, scary man? Perhaps he was orange with a bad toupee standing in the office holding a pew-pew to your head when you picked your major? Because if not, shut up, Bethany.
Well, I think the fix is that we mandate women do those jobs. So if they want to go to college, instead of, basket weaving and early childhood development, they are going to go and take petroleum engineering. Or, I don't know, we'll send them off to trade school and they can learn how to scuba dive, and they can go under the tankers and scrape barnacles for hours on end with their body between this monstrous tanker and a pier. And if that tanker floats just the wrong way, you're going to get erased. I'm all for it. I 100% support.
We can do a lottery system and be like the giver, where
I love it. Let's do it.
You get to go to petroleum, but I don't care.
It doesn't matter. And that's, they would never agree to that. That's not fair. That's not fair. Well, men don't have to choose to go into those fields. No, but they're pressured to, because somebody has to do these jobs, right? Somebody's got to pick up the trash every week. Somebody has to. They're trying to automate it all, but somebody's still got to drive the truck, right? Yeah, eventually they'll probably have autonomous trucks. We'll see how that works, but do it, because if somebody doesn't do it, it's just going to pile up on the streets. And men step up and get it done. Women do not. In all the times, and I'm talking, I'm 62 years old, I don't ever remember seeing a woman working on a garbage truck. Ever.
I've never seen one either.
I will tell you with absolute certainty, I can't say for locally, but when I lived in New York, they would have loved to have hired women to do the job. They actively were trying to recruit them because they want to make it look good, right? Oh, we have a woman that drives a garbage truck. We could get news stories and all that. They don't want to do it. And again, I'm not going to fault them for not wanting to do it. I fault them for saying that it's because of hate that they don't do it, when in reality, it's nothing more than they just don't want to do it. They want to get their hair dirty. They want to break a nail. They want to come home smelling like garbage every single day. They don't want to go out in the middle of a hurricane, climb up a 40-foot pole and repair an electrical line, because that's dangerous and not fun. They don't want to go climbing under houses to be exterminators. I can tell you right now with absolute certainty, women can do those jobs. 100% they can do them. As good as any man can. But they don't. Why? And it ain't because they're not allowed to. Most of those jobs are desperate for workers, by the way.
Well, so I think I read an article that said that 100 years ago, they looked at the jobs that women held majority 100 years ago versus now. And it's the same thing.
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same thing. So I'm supposed to believe that we're less free or still the same amount of oppressed now as we were 100 years ago. I would actually argue in many cases that women had more privileges back then than they do now.
That's not a bad argument. I concur with it. I think, I have done videos recently.
We certainly had less responsibilities, and we got more perks.
I wouldn't say less responsibilities. I'd say different types.
Different types, yes.
Because running a home is a pretty big responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the frontier. If the wife wasn't running the home, things fell apart. If the husband wasn't out in the fields raising food, everybody starved. It was mutually beneficial. It wasn't one was better than the other. That whole patriarchy. I did videos on it. You and I have talked about it. It's a fake triarchy. They just, don't want to acknowledge that reality. You were talking about voting earlier.
Well, it's like so one of the biggest lies that I always hear people say, and someone over TikTok already said, women can't have bank accounts until 70s. Bullshit.
That's complete lie.
That's complete lie.
And if you don't believe me, go watch the video I did on it where I broke it all down and proved it was a lie.
So not only is
that.
So women have been participating in commerce in all countries since there's been commerce. If we're going to take just the United States, I can prove that it's a lie because my grandmother was born in 1917. She bought her first house in the 1930s all on her own, and she got a loan for it and had a bank account.
So as is usual, the person's now going, what's the official year? Well, the official year would be somewhere in the early BCs.
Oh, no. Right? In America specifically, having a bank account, Jamestown. Yeah. So 1690s. There have been women participating in having bank accounts and participating in commerce and trade since the 1690s when we first arrived in Jamestown.
Now I'm hateful because I pointed out that their claim was a complete and utter lie. See, this is what they do, right? So now, of course, I'm a misogynist because I dared to point out the fallacy of the argument that they put out there. Women couldn't have bank accounts till the 70s. I've totally dismantled that.
They said, sorry, can't talk without having a conversation with can't have a conversation without being an argument. That sounds like a you problem.
That's a you problem.
That's a you problem, sweetie. Male or female. I don't know if you're male or female, but whoever you are.
Let me borrow Clementine. Let me borrow a phrase. Get educated. Go watch my video on it. It's about 25, 30 minutes long.
It was a good video.
There's a whole list of women in there who had bank accounts.
Including
who had credit.
Including the very first female millionaire was a black woman who sold hair products in the 1800s.
Ex-slave.
An ex-slave.
And so rather than hoist her up and lionize her as she should be, she's been relegated to non-existence in history by feminism. That's what they've done.
So one of the things that I absolutely loathe, because I'm a student of history, I've been studying history all my life, and there are many amazing people throughout history, including many amazing women. And what modern female feminism has done is it has sanitized and erased all these amazing women throughout thousands of years of history in order to make their modern argument relevant. Now tell me, doesn't that sound a little bit misogynistic to you? I need to feel like a victim, so I'm going to erase the existence of and accommodations and victories of women for thousands of years before me so that I can feel like a victim. That, to me, is an example of misogyny. And it's not coming. A legitimate
is one. Yes.
That is actually a legitimate one. And the irony is that it's not coming from men because it's coming from women. I have seen more misogynistic behavior from women who have actually internalized their misogyny than I have ever seen from men. I've seen male chauvinists.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't necessarily call them, but true misogyny, the hatred of women for being women, more often than not, I've seen it come from other women, not men.
No one hurts women more than feminists. No one. It's a cult. I did a whole video on that too. I've been on a roll with this stuff. Feminism isn't actually a cult. I took a definition of a cult, broke it down by, I think it was 8 different criteria. Feminism has them all. Every single one of them. Right? And it's where it's at today because we've allowed it to be. We don't call out their lies like women couldn't have bank accounts and credit cards till 1974. that women couldn't own businesses. I gave a whole list of people or video in my video of women who own businesses. What's the Estee Lauder? You've got Maybelline. There's a whole list of
Mary
them.
Kay.
Mary Kay. They were all around before that. You're going to tell me they had business, multi-million-dollar business, and couldn't have a bank account? Oh, you're kidding, right? And again, it goes back to what you were saying, Lindsay. It's erasing amazing women from history. What is more misogynistic than that?
In order to make yourself feel like a victim.
And it's, we talked about the Aunt Jemima. That woman is an amazing woman. And I'm not talking about they've erased her name now from the boxes because somehow that was racist. But setting that aside, they were attacking her even before that. Feminists were. She should be held up as an example for every woman to aspire to. And nope, we're not going to do that. And that hurts women. You look at, there's literally hundreds we could name. And that's the problem. Like, this is why we're at where we're at. Like one of the things we were talking about is why is there a disparity in the genders? It's because of people who want to change history, remove all of the amazing things women did, and claim it was because men wouldn't let them do them. Whereas men are saying, there is no patriarchy. Here's examples of it. Well, those don't count. Well, why don't they count? They just don't.
Well,
okay, well, that defeats your whole argument right then and there.
Well, to be fair, and I will give them this, patriarchy was a thing. We did live in a patriarchal society for some time, but the problem was that their supposition that the patriarchy was built to suppress women rather than just the way things work. I argue that the historical patriarchy actually elevated women to the point where they didn't have to do anything. Well, I mean, they did have to do something, but they were spared a lot of the true atrocities of history, war being one of them. Even the king of the country was expected to go fight off in war while the queen stayed at home and ran his country.
Yep. But we can't have that conversation, because that would be misogynistic to talk about. And again, what does that say about us now that we're allowing this? And I'm not talking about you and I or the people watching right now. I'm talking society as a whole has allowed it for decades now. And it goes back to what I said earlier. It's hurting women. It's not helping them. It's placing them in victim mode. This goes back to the whole cult thing, right? They want to create, cults in general want to create a boogeyman. So feminism, being a cult, created men as the boogeyman. They want to create these ideas that are against the cult. Patriarchy is an example of that, right? They take something and they twist it. They take things like, well, women could. That was wrong. Well, first of all, that's a lie, because women were voting well before 1918 if they happened to be property owners. Well, oh, by the way, men didn't get the exclusive right to vote at any point until just a few years prior to 1918. Oh, we can't have that conversation, right? And that hurts women. It puts them, I think you said it earlier, in victim mode constantly. It makes them feel bad about themselves.
It also makes them scared.
And scared.
And scared people are very easy to manipulate and control.
And what do cults do? They make their people scared of everyone outside of the cult in order to manipulate them. And that's why, again, literally go watch that video. And I'm not saying to promote it. I'm saying go watch it. Anyone, and tell me how it's not. And, I look at, the girls that are growing up now in this mindset that's out there. And, we're the ones that are being promoted as people to follow, Taylor Swift. I have nothing against Taylor Swift, but is she who you want as your role model? You know, a singer. That would be like saying, and I love John Lennon, but are we going to look at John Lennon? He's a great musician, wrote amazing songs, my opinion, the best songwriter in history. But in the scheme of life, that's down here, you know. List a whole list of male inventors above that. Should be well above that. But yet we glorify John Lennon. It's the same thing on the women's side, right? We glorify, who's that one rat? Cardi B, is that it?
Yeah.
She's held out as someone to be an example. What? What? I can think of, I'll tell you one, Kathy Ireland. That woman, I mean, she's a beautiful woman, don't get me wrong. She was a supermodel, but she got out of that and has built $1 billion business. I never hear women talking about her. I hear men talking about her.
I'm not particularly fond of some of her more modern politics, but even Angelina Jolie has gone around the world to talk about starving children, and she's actually been to these countries. She didn't just.
She's actually done something.
She's done something.
Yeah.
She's built like a dozen or more schools in third world countries and gotten running water to. I'm like, and I don't have to like her or her politics,
but you can respect.
But I can respect what she's actually done.
Yes. She's done the work. She's walked the walk, not talked the talk. But yet I see almost universally, and it happens to men too, by the way. All right. We tend to glorify sports figures and stuff like that, but you'll see more recognition of men on the business. Elon Musk has done amazing work as a businessman, right? There's some things about him I don't like, but I have to sit back and look and say, look at what he's done. For the benefit of mankind, by the way, right? You may not like his politics right now, but if you're going to sit there and say things like SpaceX and Tesla and all the other stuff that he's been involved in hasn't benefited mankind, then get off the internet, because he was part of that too, you know? But yet men are more likely to at least acknowledge that type of person. Maybe in some cases glorify them, but women, on the other hand, they tend to go for these vapid. And again, I have nothing against Taylor Swift. I really don't. In some ways, I admire the business side of her, right? You wanna talk about the business side of her? Okay, let's have that conversation, because she's done a hell of a job business-wise. But if we're going to hold her up because she struts around in lingerie and sings little 4-chord songs that any monkey could write, because they're all basically the same 4 chords, just in different orders, I'm sorry. I can't stand by and say that's who we should be holding up when there are amazing women out there doing things. You know, a month or so ago, we were holding up Katy Perry and Gail, what's her name? They were astronauts. They were glorified Uber passengers. Okay.
Sally Ride was.
Well, but that's my point, right? But when was the last time you talked about Sally Ride or a host? And I did a video on that. A host of female actual astronauts. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want to encourage girls to go read about them, to learn about them, to mimic them. No, we want to teach girls to get a guitar, learn E minor, A, G, and D, and go write a bunch of songs about your ex-boyfriend. That's essentially what Taylor Swift does.
And then, ironically, we get mad because, society only sees women as, these caricatures. I'm like, well, look at what you told them to emulate. Caricatures of femininity. Ironically enough, femininity itself is under fire from feminists. I am a feminine woman,
totally.
And I get told constantly that I am a doormat. And how dare I serve my husband and my family? That is apparently akin to slavery. But if I were to go slave over a desk for 12 hours a day or 8 hours a day, whatever, to a male boss, that would be empowerment. I'm like, my husband worships the ground I walk on and buys me pretty things like my mother's ring.
Oh,
the man, my boss, would not give 2 flying fudges.
Fudges. There you go. Well done. Great minds.
2 flying fudges if I was sick. Like if I called out, it'd be like, well, when can you come back? can you come back tomorrow? Or can you do some work at home in bed? Like, I'm sure you can work remotely. If I so much as cough or truly get ill, I'm brought tea and coffee and truffles and soup that he makes me. You can't get that kind of reverence from a boss. You can get that kind of reverence from a husband. So, of the two of us, Miss Career Woman, I've got the better deal, I have to say.
And they usually figure it out when they hit about 40.
Yeah.
Before we continue on, though, we've crossed the 30-minute mark. We're actually 37 minutes in. If you haven't already, hang on, I got to get the right thing. Show us some love. Do the little heart thing, Lindsay, because you do that better than I do. Give us a like, give us a follow if you're not already following us. Make sure you share this because they are throttling the crap out of it on TikTok. Big shock there. And also don't forget, if you gift us a hat and mustache on TikTok, Lindsay will go.
Yeehaw!
Hey, you actually got the cue that time. Quick shout outs to SP, Solomon, Calypso Joel, and Ben1313, Terry, Christian for the various gifts on TikTok. Getting back to our conversation. Hold on, I got to shut this thing down. I'm trying to jump between 3 different things here. Let's kind of segue it over a little bit because, we wanted to talk about how do we get out of this mess, right? And short answer that I'll give is we aren't going to anytime soon, right? But what's your thoughts on that? I think you agree with me. It's not going to change in my lifetime, maybe yours, but definitely not in mine. But how do we at least get the ball rolling?
Well, we're already sort of kind of starting to see the pendulum swing back the other way. We see quite a few women are now starting to stand up against the rhetoric and pushing back and saying, now, wait a minute. The now, wait a minute crowd is growing incrementally by the day.
It is
growing quite
I'm
incrementally by the day.
Videos that are coming out more
and now, wait a minute.
More. Yeah. I saw one that was absolutely, what a brutal takedown it was. And I should have saved it. I didn't, and I can't go and find it again. It's pissing me off.
Do you hate it when that happens?
Because I was going to save it. I was going to do one of my give and takes with it and just sit and do this the whole time. But I can't find it. It was brutal. I mean, she was as savage as you are, Lindsay, and you are savage. You're an amateur compared to what she did. And if I can ever find the video again, I'll send it to you. It's probably been taken down. That's probably why I can't find it. Because they were screaming at it. I mean, it was brutal. But anyway, go on.
But one of the things that we need to work on, one of the things that I personally have taken up as this is the hill I will not myself unalive on, but I will unalive someone else on this hill, is that we have to hear the other side. So we need more female voices to stand up and say, wait a minute. We also need to do the thing that women always tell men to do, but women are never willing to do themselves. And that is hold bad women accountable when they say stupid shit. So when I hear you say something stupid and you're female, I'm in the comment section going, you're a dumbass. Stop it. You're making the rest of us look bad. Or in a lot of cases, a lot of these women have, because society is so triggered towards and so conditioned towards misogyny that we can't even disagree with women nowadays. They've never had anyone tell them no. And that has led to a false sense of confidence in their idiocy. And then they get up on the internet and they find more women that are also falsely confident in their idiocy. And then when other women come by and say, now, wait a minute, some of them are polite about it. I'm not so polite about it. But I have started to see more and more women who are down in the comment section on a lot of these videos going, now, wait a minute. Have we considered this? Or this doesn't seem fair? Or what's his side of the story? I actually saw someone else other than me on a partner shaming video say, I want to see your side of the sink. And I was like, I do too.
Yeah, they never want to talk about that.
There's actually been quite a few women who have been parodying or parodying, talking about, this is so rude. Like he left his toothbrush on the side of the sink and then they pan to show their side of the sink. Yeah. And there's makeup everywhere. And they're using humor to point out this ridiculous.
They're doing what men do, actually.
Yes, that's how we do it. And more and more women are starting to do that now, from a trickle to a flood, and we're slowly, like I said, gaining ground. I would say within the next 20 years, we might get back to a happy medium.
You think it'll be that quick? I don't. I think
I
I
hope so.
well, hope that's a different thing, right? I 100% agree with you that the pendulum has already started to swing back. And I will continue that thought by saying I don't want it to swing back too far the other way either, because that's not good either, right?
No.
Because it tends to go back and forth a few times before it finds its happy medium. That said, it's, it went swung all the way up here. It's just barely trickling back. I don't think it'll happen in 20 years. That's basically one generation. We are the equivalent of 4 generations of teaching women to be the way they are. It's going to take at least 4 generations to unwind it. And I do think, however, and you know the different generations better than I do. So it's hopeless for us boomers. It's hopeless for you millennials. It's hopeless for, what's the one behind that? Z?
Z.
All right. Those 3, they're helping to drive the change. It's the one after that. It's the girls that are in grade school and beginning of high school now. They're the ones that are going to swing that pendulum even more. Their children are the ones that will really start moving it. But they're not going to have children for another 20 years, right? So that's why I say it's not going to happen in my lifetime. I seriously doubt you'll see it really come to an equilibrium in your lifetime. I would love nothing more than to be wrong. I don't want to be right on this, but I just don't see it changing that quickly. I think you're looking at multi-generational change. And there's going to be a lot of pain before we get back. A lot of it. And ultimately, it comes down to one thing, and you've already mentioned it. It's accountability. Women have to be accountable to themselves, not to men, because men have nothing to do with this part of it. Women have to be accountable to each other and to themselves, because as we've talked about, when these women are out there, you see these women, I use them in videos all the time, just trashing men. And men are like, okay, F you, we're done. See ya. And then there are good women out there. And they're never going to find a mate, because much like the women like to say, we never know if you're a good one or a bad one, dude. Well, guess what, dudette? Neither do we. And oh, by the way, you're every bit as harmful to us as you want to claim we are to you. So welcome to equality. And they hate that. It's going to be on women to fix this. Men cannot fix this. We can bring things up. We can talk about it. We can be part of the conversation, and we should be. This is on women. And it's, when you have, who are the leaders of the women in general now? I can't really define one. Like, who do all women look up to? There really isn't much out there. And by the way, I would make the same argument about men right now. We don't have any good heroes. Our heroes are, baseball players and football players. And that's part of the problem with our society as a whole, is we value celebrities over true changers, I like to call them, people who bring about change.
Well, we have confused talent with morality.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Excellent way to put it.
We think that because you're talented, that makes you a good person. No. I know plenty of people, talented people throughout history, that were talented at a great many things and were not nice people.
And one of them I mentioned earlier, John Lennon. Great musician, horrible person behind the scenes. He used his first wife and his child.
So, the virtues that we have as women in general, also another thing that we were talking about, they've confused morality with or talent with morality, is women's still see beauty as a virtue, and we will uphold the most beautiful of us as the most virtuous, when in many cases those women are horrible people.
Mhm.
And then we get mad when men consider beauty a virtue. I'm like, wait a minute. Men think attractiveness is a virtue, or it's something they look for. We're not any different, because we hold the most beautiful of us up to this ridiculous standard, and we all want to emulate them. In many cases, they're terrible people.
Mhm.
And that's actually historically accurate. There's a reason why beauty is only skin deep is an idiom, because it's true. And when all you have is beauty and you're allowed to skate by with that, it's like the croissant girl from whatever many years ago on the internet. Is a croissant is mostly air and not very filling. You eat one and you're hungry 30 minutes later, just like Chinese food. And
Careful. You're skirting the edge there.
savage.
I know.
Anyway,
I love it, though.
But if you're allowed to skirt by, women hold up beauty as a virtue. And then men say, well, beauty is a virtue. And women get mad when men say it, but we're the ones holding it up. And so I see so many women who sit there and say, well, I'm pretty. And I'm like, and?
And
Well, I'm
usually they're
pretty.
not, by the way, or they're
And?
average.
Or you're the number of average women who think they're a 10 because they slapped on some makeup. I'm just like, I just want to take them. I'm like, look, lady, I am not intimidated by someone who can be factory reset with a baby wipe. I'm just not.
I think back to, the girl in high school. And she was gorgeous in high school. No question. No question. And I remember going to my reunion in 2011, which was our 30th year reunion. The wall won. That's all I'm going to say. It won big, right? And I remember, because, if you go to reunions, you tend to get back into your old groups. And I was in multiple groups. I was in the geek group. I was in the sports group. So I was crisscrossing around. But, I was sitting next to someone who I knew in high school, but didn't know her well. But she was one of the, what's the term for the girls that no one pays attention to? There's a term and I'm blanking on it right now. Help me out, somebody. Not wallflower. Is it wallflower? Maybe it is.
Wallflower, yeah.
It's that type of thing,
term.
right? That nobody really paid attention to her. And, thinking back in high school, you would not call her beautiful. You wouldn't call her ugly either. She was average, just like I am, right? But when she was at that reunion, she looked amazing, right? Amazing. And I remember her saying that, making comments about how she was treated by the group that the gorgeous girl was in. And they were all, the what is that movie? The Plastics and the Mean Girls? Is that what they're called?
Mean Girls.
Yeah, they that group reformed, and they were all like, man, the wall won on that group, And it talks about, when you see these girls in their 15, 20, 25, 30, on up to about 35-ish, who think that way, and I'll ask you, do they not realize that they're going to age? I mean,
well, as a wallflower myself, and someone who is still not conventionally beautiful, and probably I'm mid. God, no fault. I'm not fishing for compliments.
High mid.
I get, when I went to my high school reunion, everyone kept asking me, "Oh, I can't say my last name because we'll get banned on TikTok." It rhymes with bike but starts with a D. I was not popular by any means. I made it hard for myself. I played 9 different instruments. It was in all AP classes. I met my husband in marching band, guys. That's how much of a nerd I was. And but they all asked, how are you? Oh, how are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, I don't actually work. Oh, well, what do you do? I stay home. I raise my children. Oh, whatever happened to that senior you were dating? I married him. He's right there. He's in the Air Force. He bought me a house, 2 cars, 2 dogs, and we have 2 kids. Would you like to see pictures? On all of the ways that I measure success, All of these others, they were in debt up to their eyeballs. They all went they all went to college to get useless degrees, and they were the kind of stupid you need a 4-year degree for, because college just brainwashed them. They all parroted the same thing. They couldn't think of they hadn't read a book in like 3 years. And
you got to read the comments over on you have a fan base. They're arguing over how pretty you are, basically.
I did not say that to fish for compliments.
No, and you weren't.
I
will defend you.
I wasn't. But to see the girls that made fun of me, some of them, by the way, were divorced like
multiple times.
Multiple times.
Yes. Yes. I saw the same thing.
You're my age. We're 28. How and you're on your third divorce, and they're like, well, we dated for a while and we got married, and like, you know how it is. I'm like, no, I don't know how it is, because I married the man I was dating at 15, and guess what? Well, this year it'll be 17 years. But my eyes crossed, because they're like, well, you know, and I'm like, no, I can't say that I do. But the women who made fun of me, the ones that were considered popular or pretty or whatever, they weren't pretty anymore.
No.
And if they were still attractive, they were horribly ugly, hideous the minute they opened their mouths, and just came out.
That's the other side of it, right? So, you know, when you talk about like, how do we get things back together, that's where I think women need to step up and teach each other not to be that way, because beauty plays a role in attracting men, no question. All right, that's biology. We all know that. It doesn't really play a role in keeping men. Right?
No, because if it did, celebrities would never divorce.
Right, and they go through how many marriages, right? So, you know, as we get older, generally speaking, it's both men and women, you know, we start losing our hair. Women lose their hair too. I hate to break it to you, ladies. That's why y'all wear wigs, have hair extensions, and all that crap, especially when you're dumping enough dye onto your head, toxic chemicals, you kill your hair, right? It happens. You're going to get wrinkles. You probably are going to gain weight. Not everybody, but most people put on additional weight. It's inevitable. Yet you see these 20-year-old girls that just live in denial. And I actually feel bad for them. I don't get angry at them. I actually feel bad for them, because where are their, let's call them role models? It could be their mom, their grandmothers, teachers at school. Where are they and not teaching these girls about that? Are they in denial themselves? I mean, I know we can go get plastic surgery and, you know, lift and separate things and all that other crap. Someone's making rude things, isn't it? You're turning red. I know what he's doing. We're not going to talk about that. Moving on. Tell him he's a bad boy. I hear him chuckling now. Bad, Eric. Bad. Shame on you. But I mean, like, let's use you as an example. You have 2 boys, but let's say you had 2 girls. I know you would teach your girls not to be that way. I know you would, right? But most women in your age group are not doing that. They're teaching them to be the other way. Do they not realize how much that's hurting them?
I honestly don't think they do, but I will give my father, who I recently went to visit, so much credit, because he flat out told me that you're going to get farther with your brain than your boobs or whatever. And he never let me skate on that. He always encouraged me to use my brain. And to that would be my fallback. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, a lot of the girls that were raised like this, that don't understand, didn't have a dad to tell them that. They have a mother
you're right.
who cuddled their fifis and coddled them, but they didn't have a dad who would look at them straight in the eye and go, you know, eventually gravity will win. And you're not going to, and I love my dad dearly because he said, what is the point of getting new ones when you're past a certain age? It's like putting a crystal chandelier in a haunted house. I laughed my
That's a
ass
good one.
off.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. I'm gonna have to steal that one.
But they don't have dads that'll sit there and tell them that from the male gaze point of view, yes, being pretty will get you foot in the door. But if you don't have any substance to back it up, you're not going to keep him.
No, it'll get you.
You're not going to.
It'll get you P and D is what it'll get you.
And
that's exactly what happens. Is all right. She's beautiful. Yeah, I'll hit that, and then I'll dump her because there's no sustenance behind it, right? Substance behind it. Men want that brain. They want that companion that's going to be their equal. Now, we always talk about the dynamic, or, men have to be leaders and all that. Yes, that's true to a point. But, in my marriage, we're equal partners, right? I may lead on something. She may lead on others. That's fine, right? We work together. I know it's the same for you as well. And that's why we're succeeding. But when you have situations where the two extremes, and by the way, there's men out there saying, oh, no, you got to be the leader and basically squash her like a bug. No, that's not showing her respect, but yet you want respect from her. It doesn't work that way. And that's why it's so broken, right? I think it's more so on the women's side, but there are men that are guilty too. Let's not hide that fact.
And in many cases, the extreme male side is being exasperated by the extreme women. There
Absolutely,
are so many women who are just exuding what used to be vices as virtues that the men have started to respond. It's almost like well, you want me to be the bad guy? Okay, I'll be the bad guy. And to be perfectly fair to these men who think this of women, when Cardi B is your example of femininity, Cardi B and Taylor Swift, and that's all you see because we're inundated with that constantly. We never uphold any true, I don't think, feminine women. It's always the boss, boss babe, and yeah, go get them, and the women who are in their masculine energy. If that's, and
it's also the ones that are strutting around in their lingerie all the time.
And if that's all they see of women, I can understand why you think women should be squashed like bugs. But then I would also like to deposit the idea that if you don't want us to judge men based on what the examples sometimes that we have shoved down our face, many of which are fictitious, by the way. A lot of the representations of masculinity in our society, I have noticed, have all come from fictitious places. So books, media, TV, whatever, we get shoved and this is what men are like. And it's all BS. It's all fictitious. And so women are judging, in many cases, their idea of men off of the fictitious depiction of men, usually depicted by women, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I talk about that all the time in my videos.
And then men, at least, even the bad ones, they don't have to create a fictitious female boogeyman. The women are proving their point on their own.
They're creating their own.
They're creating their own.
Yeah.
So, but both extremes are widening the gap. And I was talking to our producer, Curtis, our good friend, off the other day, that they're so interested in, we don't need the gap to get any wider. That's why, people like Dan and I, we have these conversations because we recognize that men need women and women need men. I don't care what
100% agree.
Poll or whatever. Oh, well, and they did that poll, didn't they? Where it was men said absolutely we need women, but women said absolutely we don't need men.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers, but it was very wide.
It was very, very wide apart. Yeah. And we need to get the other side, the women, to admit that they do need men. And in most cases, what they're really saying is that they don't need men in their personal lives. I disagree. But
they say that publicly. But behind the scenes, I know many women who say that publicly, but I also know what their life is like behind the scenes.
The ones who scream, I don't need no man, are also the ones screaming, where have all the good men gone?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, somebody, I think it was Taylor the Fiend on YouTube. One of them, it might not have been him, but anyway, had a woman. So, he found a video from I think it was a year ago, roughly. The whole, I don't need no man, blah, 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 blah. And then he had a more current one where her whole life had fallen apart. And why won't men like me and all that? And you see that more and more. It's, we do need each other. And people will say to me, but Dan, you're telling men not to get married right now. I'm telling them not to get married because of the realities of life, right? That does not mean I'm anti-marriage. I'm very pro-marriage. But I would be doing what many politicians are doing now, which is, now men, I know it's bad, but go get married anyway. Go ahead, throw yourself into the jaws of the lion. He's going to eat you, but, you're doing the right thing. Sacrifice yourself. I can't do that. I think, when people ask me, why do I say it? I say, walk away now. Are making the point, right? You're starting to see women panic.
Well, yeah, look at the male loneliness epidemic, which I swear to God,
it's a fraud.
It's projection.
It is projection.
We can't find men, therefore we must assume that men can't find us either. We're miserable, therefore men must be miserable too.
Yep.
And that's not how that works. Women are very. I am realistic as to my gender's stereotypes exist for a reason, and I know what we're like. I know how we think, because yes, guys, I am in fact female. I'm
not saying a word.
Well, that's the thing I always get accused of online is they're like, oh, you don't have a real picture. You must be secretly male. And I'm like, who's going to tell my kids and my husband? Oh my God.
Or your OBGYN.
And I lost the train of thought.
Uh-oh, the squirrel has left the station. Get it back. I'll pause.
Oh,
you're not a female.
I am a female.
No, I know you. I'm saying that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but there was something that I was coming off before
you
that.
think, and let me just run with it for a second. I mean, but here's a point. You kind of cut through me. We've gotten to the point where we can't even define what a female is now. How does that help women? Set aside the politics of it. Oh, she's back. Go. Squirrel's back.
That made me think of something else. Another example of true misogyny in this country nowadays is a whole bunch of men cosplaying womanhood like it's a costume and mansplaining. I hate that term, but mansplaining womanhood to us badly, and then telling us that we're misogynistic if we don't let them take over all of our stuff. And I'm like, you mean like our private spaces and whatnot?
Like, yeah. Well,
I mean, supposed to be safe, and the majority of men are all on our side. And the irony is that the women have been browbeat into, you have to accept this form of misogyny or whatever. And I don't think there's anything more misogynistic than a man telling a woman this is what it means to be a man. Just like I don't think there's anything more misandristic than a woman dictating to a man what it means to be a man. And they're like, well, and for some reason, everyone always says, well, you wouldn't like the reverse, or you accept the reverse. I go, no, actually, I'm an equal opportunist here. If I say I don't like the behavior in one gender, guess what? Chances are I don't like the reciprocal behavior in the other gender either.
And that's why we get hated so much. All right, we've crossed the 5 o'clock hour. Our producer's doing his job and telling people in the notes to give us some love, but I will do the front side. Show us some love. Give us the hearts. Give us the likes. Give us the thumbs ups. If you're not following us or subscribed, hit that subscribe button and all that good stuff. Share this because it helps spread the word, blah, blah, blah. And Luis sent us a whole bunch of gifts. Thank you, sir. And let me take that one down, bring that one up. Don't forget, every hat and mustache gifted. We haven't gotten one yet. It's a yeehaw from Lindsay. You already gave what your sample one. We don't do a second one. So if you want to go ahead and do that, getting back to the discussion, because, the reality is, and I've talked about it in videos, and I know you have, and we've talked about it on the show in the past, society is going to fall apart. It's not an if, but a when right now, unless things change. You look at things like the birth rate in the U.S., for example, is now 1.3, I think is the last number I saw. which is not sustainable for society. You know, and you're seeing a lot of Western countries go that way. And on top of it, this goes back to our discussion, you've got women and feminists demonizing motherhood now. Telling women, and I don't know how many videos every single day, do not have a baby. It's going to destroy your life. It's going to destroy your career. It's going to wreck your body, blah, 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 blah. They have demonized motherhood. And I hate to be blunt. I hate to be real. But y'all have a clock. Men have a clock too, but our clock runs much slower. And even when we get to my age and older, we can still occasionally do the job, right? Women, there's a finite number of eggs. And once they're gone, right? And
I see the argument. I see the argument all the time. It'll destroy your body. I'm like, you do realize we were literally made.
We have evolved. It blows my mind, Lindsay.
My favorite is like, okay, we're talking about like the stuff in the body. I said, did you know that women have a special organ that is specifically designed for someone else to use? It serves no purpose to us. It is specifically designed for someone else's use. Do you know what it's called? And they're always like,
appendix.
And
appendix.
And our hips are wider for a reason. Our hips widen for a reason. Men's hips don't do that. Women can have a higher pain tolerance for longer for childbirth. We can lose a whole bunch of blood. And we can grow an entire person. I've done it twice. It's not easy. So you sit there and say, and when I hear women specifically say, I've never had a man tell me it ruined my body. I've had men tell me it made it better.
I was going to say, most men think of the opposite. Exactly. Tiger stripes, what you guys hate, we love. We may not say it, but we do.
Well, Mr. Squirrely tells me that all the time. He says more of you to love. And, but the women who sit there and say it'll ruin your body, you automatically know what they value. It's appearance. And they also have a fundamental misunderstanding of men. Now, I'm not saying like women who put on a ridiculous amount of baby weight and then they never lose it. I'm talking about the biological changes or even some slight weight gain. I have never had Mr. Squirrely dog me for the weight that I gained with both of my children, especially with the 2 C-sections and preeclampsia.
It's part of what happens.
He tells me, he goes, I gained some weight too. You're the sympathetic pregnancy that he
Which is true also, by the way.
Which is also true, by the way.
Happened to me, yep.
And I've never had my husband tell me that I looked better before I had children. Never. I have had women tell me that. I've also had women ask me when I'm due, even though I haven't been pregnant in 9 years.
You had to think about it.
I did. I'm like, how old is my kid? Because I'm a tall, thin woman and I have carried the baby weight. So they're calling, oh, when are you due? I'm not. Oh, well, you must have just had a baby. And the thing is, it baffles me is that the women who comment on, and this is true, women are always saying, well, men shouldn't comment on our bodies. I was like, I have had maybe 2 men, both of them in my family, ever comment on my body, and it was positive. Do you know how many comments I've gotten on my body from other women, and none of them were positive?
Let me throw another one out right now, because you were here last fall. We went to the beach. You were in a bathing suit. I've seen you in a bathing suit. You look gorgeous, darling, right? I mean, to be blunt, right? Do you have extra weight? Sure, if you say so. I don't even see it. And
most guys don't.
That's my point. That's what the point I'm getting to, right? Your husband doesn't see it. I don't see it. Most guys don't see it. Now I'm talking, now if you put on 400 pounds, of course you're going to see it. But I will tell you something, ladies, if you're listening, if we are married to you and we're committed to you and we love you, we'll never see the weight, ever. And it might be 400 pounds. There are many guys I know, many of my friends who've been married 30 and 40 years. Their wives certainly don't look now like they did back then. Yet every single one of them, to a man, doesn't see it because they see her as their spouse, their significant other, the person they love. They don't care. That's why I say attraction plays a role in the beginning. Absolutely. I will never deny that. But once a man locks in and makes his final answer, that's it.
You get rose-colored glasses pretty much
Yeah,
for the rest of your
we
life.
get blind. No, forget glasses. We get blind. Okay. Because to us, if she's giving us what we're actually looking for, which women have no freaking clue is, because what do women say? Oh, I have a great job. I own my own house. Who the F cares? The next woman that tells me that her career and she can cook dinner and I don't give two craps about any of that, honey. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. Are you going to acknowledge that I exist? You're going to show appreciation to me every once in a while. Doesn't even need to be every day. Are you not going to make my life a living freaking hell so that I hate coming home? Give me a little peace, a little acknowledgement. Hey, how about a little respect? I don't give a crap what you look like. And that's almost not every guy. There are exceptions, to be sure. That's almost every guy, though. That's how we think. You give us those things, we won't care. You don't give us those things, you could be, I don't know, what's the Sydney, whatever her name is, the hot chick now, the movie star. It's got the big balloons.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention.
Help me out, people. Sydney Sweet, the blonde. Anyway, she's gorgeous. I'll give you that. I wouldn't want to be married to her. Oh, no. Hell no. She's clueless.
Doesn't that kind of go with projection, though? Is women project what they look for in a male partner onto men and assume that's what they're looking in a female partner. That's why they always lead with, well, I have a career and I make this kind of money and I do all of this. And it's like, that's what you're looking for in a partner. That is not what men are looking for in a partner. The millionaire will marry the barista because the barista takes care of him, acknowledges him, respects him.
That's the big one.
And shows appreciation versus the woman who's a corporate headhunter because she's argumentative. She's confused strength with bitchery and aggression, and she's vindictive, and she makes a relationship should not be a fight. You either want to be together or you don't. And if he has to fight to keep you, why should he? If you want to be kept, if you want to keep him, you should make it as easy for him to keep you as possible. Now you
make him fight, he's going to start checking out. I'll tell you right now.
So my husband and I, Mr. Squirrely, our relationship is easy. I'm not easy because I'm nuttier than squirrel poo. No. But I don't make him fight for I don't make him fight to keep me. I'm not going anywhere. In fact, if he wanted to evict me, he'd have to do it in an urn or a casket. But the women I see that will sit there and argue and they browbeat their husbands and they treat them like they take them for granted. And then they still expect him to continue to love and appreciate. Well, look at what all I do. Okay. When was the last time you said thank you? Well, what would I have to thank him for? And that's why he's checked out.
Yep. And once he checks out, he ain't coming back. Men will not come back. They're done. They'll ride it out. I mean, I talk to married men all the time. They are miserable. Not all of them, obviously, but there is a huge chunk of them. But they know they can't leave because the system will work against them. And they will ride it out. And even when they get to the point, the kids are out the door and all that, they still won't leave. Now, some will say it's because of fear. I think that's not entirely true, but I think it's a part of it. I think men are much more loyal. They're more true to their word. Till death do us part means something to men. Not all. Again, people are gonna throw. Well, what about this one? Stop looking at the exceptions. Look at the generality, right? The majority of men do believe in death do us part. Women do not. generally speaking. It's
Until we're
I'm
uncomfortable.
until I think I can do better. That's the phrase I use. Because you don't have to be uncomfortable. You could be happy, but you know what? I can get what is it, Henry? Who's Superman? The one who says
Henry Cavill.
I can get him. Honey, you're a 3 at best, and that's with your makeup and 4 filters on your video. Okay. And no, he's not going to be interested in you. Sorry. Not trying to be mean, honey, but you're average, not you particular. I don't mean Lindsay people. I'm talking, a woman out there, right? Because I'm like, oh shit, they're going to think I'm talking to her. Because I see these videos all the time. And I downloaded one and I'm doing a video off of it. This woman is not unattractive, but she's average, which is fine, right?
Well, most women are. That's why it's called average.
That's why average. Same with the guys, right? She should be seeking someone on her level. This chick thinks she deserves, name your top level guy, and that's what runs through all of this now. We always talk about 80% of women are looking for 20% of guys. And I think it was Steve mentioned earlier, it's more like 5%. I agree with that. It's not even 20% anymore. It's 5. They all think, that they deserve to use a term, Travis Kelce, because that's who Taylor has. Well, last I checked, honey, you're not 5'11" with long legs, fairly attractive. I don't think she's all that great looking, but she's fairly attractive. And you ain't a billionaire. So what makes you think Travis is going to be interested in you, honey? What do you bring into him? You're certainly not bringing peace. You're not bringing respect. You show that in your videos. You're not going to bring anything to the table except this, and this is a dollar store reject bin. So,
and we're back to women won't tell women the truth, because a lot of the reasons why women are delusional and think they deserve this is because other women have told them that they do.
Oh, you see, I'm like, some of them, I look at them and go, what the frick are they looking at? Because they're misleading them. That's not to say they're ugly. Don't get me wrong. But, set some realistic things. And that goes back to mothers need to be doing that. Fathers do it, by the way. It's one of the things fathers teach daughters. Look, to me, you're beautiful, honey. You are a 10. But let's look at reality here, okay? You're not. Okay? You're not Kathy Ireland or, name your number one. You're just not. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it should be celebrated. Because I will tell you, and I saw somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Michael, that there's the guy, just found the comment. I don't want a photo model. I agree with him. I wouldn't want a photo model. Because I've had photo models. You know what? Most of them are dumber than a box of rocks. They have nothing to talk about at all, period, except themselves. They're so narcissistic, it's unbelievable. And when it comes to recreational activities, I'll use a phrase that I use in my video, which people loved. They're about as good as a warm Hot Pocket. I threw that in a video. The number of people, and it just came out of my mouth when I said it. Okay. They're awful at those things. And that's been my experience. I'm talking now, it's not recent, but back in the day, I had my share of 10 women, 9s and 10s, 8s. It's the 5s and 6s that were way better back then. And I'm sure it's still true today. And guys know that. We'll hit the 10. Oh, we'll get a chance. We'll absolutely hit it. No question. We ain't going to marry it. We want the average girl because they're the ones that are going to bring to us what we really want.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about women skating by on just their looks. If all they've ever been told is that they're beautiful, typically by their female friends and their mother, they think that that's all they need, that they don't need to develop this wonderful, magical thing called a personality. And they're slowly realizing that looks aren't everything. And unfortunately, most of the women who think they have, I'm pretty, that's all I need. You're pretty terrible, pretty shallow, like a rain puddle. I could have better chance of catching your thoughts in a sieve than with you.
She's getting vicious now. Ooh.
And look, if you're gonna try and skate by on your beauty, you have to actually be beautiful.
Naturally beautiful too.
Naturally beautiful.
Not makeup.
And even if I were drop dead gorgeous, which I'm not, but if I were, I would still remember what my dad said, because I understand that there's this thing called biology, and eventually I would age. Even some of the most beautiful women in the world did not age well. Elizabeth Taylor, for example, she was gorgeous.
Oh,
younger.
Go look at all the hot 80s babes. Because that's when I was in my 20s, right? Is in the 80s. And all the girls that were smoking hot back then, you go look at current pictures, it's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, as a guy, because it's like, Heather Locklear. Demi Moore, who I thought was really attractive. Have you seen her lately? And then I look at, I was watching a Friends episode a week or so ago, and you look at like Jennifer Aniston, you look at with Courtney Cox, and I forget the other one's name. They were attractive women, right? You look at them now, and because of what they've been taught, that it is all about beauty. I looked at Courtney Cox, a recent picture, and she's clearly had work done, and she looks horrible. And, I found a picture of Jennifer Aniston without the makeup. Oh my, right? And I sit there and go, I wish women like that. And who was the one? There was one, Pamela Anderson did it. I'm not going to wear makeup. I'm going to show you who I are. I applaud the hell out of her for that. Because she's telling women the truth. There needs to be more like her, right?
Didn't she just do a video or a movie?
Who?
Pamela Anderson.
I have no idea.
I think she just did a movie. And I think she did not wear makeup during that movie.
You might be right. I don't know.
Go
ahead.
I'm gonna throw some interesting stuff at you real quick. So of the male population, only 14.5% of them are 6 foot or taller. And then of the male population, only 18% of men make more than $100,000 per year. That's when AI runs the math, it comes around 1% of men who fit that category.
That's
Isn't that
high.
awful?
I think it's 2 years ago now, did a video where I did the calculations.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with the, based on the census, 2020 census, how many men there were. It works out to less than 10,000 fit the sixes.
Correct.
And then, and you have 75 million women trying to get those 10,000 guys.
Right.
I know girl math is a bit crazy, but that math will never math.
So I want to throw an interesting. This is ironic because Lindsay had said ironic earlier, and I had Alanis Morissette playing in my head.
just think that when you said it was the song went in my head. Wow.
Right. So, but we all know a gentleman who is 6'5", who makes $170,000 a year, and because of his personal circumstances, got a vasectomy. I mean, they're not touching him. So it's funny that you can hit some of those benchmarks. You don't have to hit all 6, but holy buckets, just those 2, he hits them and he's like, no, I'm done. I'm not attaching myself anymore.
Yep.
So food for thought.
The women, and when I say, I mean mothers specifically and grandmothers, they need to be teaching their daughters this reality that we're talking about, because they're setting themselves up they're setting their daughters up for failure.
They are.
For unhappiness, for a life of misery. Well, honey, you deserve that 6'5" guy with $6 million in the bank and, 6-pack abs and all that. You shouldn't settle for anything less. In fact, you need to raise your standards even higher. You're never going to find that guy. There is no perfect guy.
Are they putting in the work themselves?
No.
But that's not even part of it, though, Curtis. I agree with you, right? But they're not even telling them to do that. They're saying, do not even, you shouldn't, you should find that guy and you're the table, honey. So you don't need to bring anything else but this.
So here's the irony. So Mr. Squirrely does not have all 3 of 6s. He has 2 of the 6s now. He's 6'2". He makes over 100,000 a year, and he has a keg, which I think is better than a 6-pack. Why settle for a 6-pack when you have a whole keg? But this is recent. So after 17 years of marriage, we are now here. I took that man with nothing. We didn't even have a wedding ring at our
That's an important point.
marriage. We reused my engagement ring. We were poorer than church might for the longest time. And he gives me all of this now. I say he gives me, but we built this life together now. And women who start at the starting line, they want what I have after 17 years of work. And I'm like, are you willing to put in the 17 years of work? Because you can have this, but not instantly.
Right.
And they don't want it. They want the instant gratification. They want, well, I want it now. I said, okay, Baruka.
Baruch.
Curtis, did you get the reference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I feel like I'm sitting in the middle of HR.
You're gonna be
right.
We're both going to be in HR soon, and we're not even the ones saying anything.
But they want it. They want it right now. They want the end goal now, and they don't want to put in any of the work. I'm like, look, you can have your 6-figure, 6 foot, whatever, if you put in the work. But you have to put in the work, and they're not willing to do it. They want to wait at the finish line for whoever crosses, first and fits their standard of attractiveness.
But Lindsay, it's even more than that because, I fit 3 of the 4 6s. I don't have 6-pack abs, right? And I have younger women at the gym throw themselves at me. They make it obvious. And I am no Brad Pitt or whomever, okay? I'm an average looking guy. They don't really know how much money I have. They don't know any, but they will make it obvious they're interested. And I'm like, what makes you think I'd even want you? Forget the fact that I'm happily married, setting that aside. If I wasn't, I would have no interest in you. What do I care about some 25-year-old? And what are they going to bring to me? More drama, more double standards, more narcissism? I'm 62 years old, honey. I'm way past those days.
And I think what's interesting about men is, like in my case, why wouldn't you want to, if you're a man, why wouldn't you want to marry older anyway? Because it brings less drama. It brings less like turmoil, especially if someone's been through a little bit more. They're ready to like set crap aside. They want a little bit of peace. Why not? I mean, my wife.
And what's happening though? But what's happening, Curtis, is they're realizing they can't get it anywhere, so they're walking away.
Oh,
my generation of guys that are single now, because I talk to them all the time, they ain't ever getting married again. 0 chance. And they, there's, people will say, well, that's not scientific. When you hear it by the thousands and thousands every single day, it's real. And people better understand that. And if it's happening with my generation, it's going to happen with yours too. It's inevitable. We do got to we're running out of time here. So we got to, we're down to a minute. So awesome show. Buy a motorcycle, Jasco said. I just sold mine not too long ago. You're too old for that shit. I miss it though. Anyway, so really good show. So since Curtis, you're on, how can people find you, my awesome producer friend?
I'm on Facebook, Curtis Bauer, KURTIS BOWER. YouTube, it's KBauer82, and then I'm on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, Gmail, YouTube,
Gmail. So let's all give Curtis some thanks, because he did a lot of work to prep for this episode, and the best way you can do that is hit the old heart button so he sees it. Show him some love. put a comment in saying thanks, Curtis, because he's the one who put this show together for us. Is that your dog, Lindsay? Or
Oh my goodness, yes. The Amazon delivery guy stops.
Oh, it's your dog. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, Lindsay, how can they follow you?
I am Squirrely Girl 1988 on Instagram and YouTube. I technically do still have a TikTok, but I haven't really put up any new videos in a while because me and TikTok are in a very, very hate relationship right now.
Not as much as mine. We didn't even get to talk about that. We'll just let it go.
And Facebook, I believe, is just Squirrely Girl. You'll see a stylized picture of my lovely face, which I have to discourage people from sending me unsolicited deck pics. And I said deck, like on a plane.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I got unsolicited something else pics.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't from a guy. All right. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you want to follow me, it's Men Need to Be Heard pretty much everywhere except Twitter, where there's the number 2. And quick note, if you are on TikTok, I only have 2 accounts. Men Need to Be Heard 3 and Men Need to Be Heard 2, TOO. All of the other ones are scammers. TikTok is refusing to take them down. Stay tuned because I'm about to hold them accountable for it because they are using my logo, which is trademarked. So if you are getting, because I've had a couple of people reach out to me late last week saying they were being contacted by scammers on other accounts. I only have those 2. All right, guys, great show. I guess we got to, Lindsay doesn't like eggplant. On that note, we're going to close it down and see you next week.